Okay, welcome. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the principle of siblings and boarding school, but in particular the siblings which are left at home. And I also want to just kind of overlap that into the psychology of, British people. How much is kind of linked into, are we like siblings being left at home? And those who are in charge are those who go off to boarding school. And I just want to talk a bit about the psychology of that today. So it's a lovely spring morning here in West Yorkshire. So I had a question a couple of weeks ago about a sister of a boarding school survivor. And they were just asking me about the role of siblings, the significant role. And what she was explaining was just how, for her, there was this deep rupture when her brother or sister, went off to boarding school. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because, I've had a look in the literature and I can't find any references to it, and I've not come across this before, so it's an interesting principle. Essentially, it happened to me, and certainly in my family, that my mother didn't go to boarding school, but all of her brothers did. My sister was not sent to boarding school until she decided at sixth form college to go. I went age 11, and I've heard quite a few stories of this where one sibling goes and the others stay at home. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. So the sibling who stays at home, I think there is that core belief that there's something wrong with me, because boarding school is painted and it's sold as being a privilege, it's a wonderful thing. So the child who stays at home, there must be a belief, and I don't know, but just kind of reading into this, certainly from my own experiences with my sister, is that I was somehow lucky. My sister said that, oh, you were the lucky one, you got away from home. And it was like, I've heard someone say this recently, this idea that actually boarding school is jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. Yeah, it might be difficult at home, but boarding school is often, not always, is often a lot harder. Now, what's really interesting is that it's seen as a privilege, and then the child who's sent away to boarding school, because this omerta, this you do not speak up, you do not grasp, they don't then share with their sibling what it was like and what it is like. So the sibling still has this illusion who stays at home. Oh, it's wonderful, And my sense is psychologically that there's going to be that belief, what's wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. Yes, the boarding school survivor, they have that as well, but we've not talked about the sibling left at home. So I have heard a story of a sibling. The sister stayed at home and the brother went off to boarding school. And the sibling, the sister who stayed at home, made the reflection that when the brother came back, they were really looking forward to seeing them. Christmas holiday, they'd been away for 3 months almost, really looking forward to seeing them. And the reflection was, my brother didn't come back, it was a different person who came back. And I think that's quite a big wound for a sibling, is you've got that connection, you've got that secure attachment to your sibling. And the attachment's broken, and suddenly this different person comes back. And I imagine, because obviously I didn't have this, but it must have been really difficult for my sister on one level. I became quite dysfunctional, on my holidays, because I didn't know anyone. She would kind of have to care for me, almost like meeting her friends. I'd go to her parties because I didn't know anyone. She was, the big sister. So I think that thing of, going away when the person comes back, they're a different person. And I imagine on one level, we can be quite cold. All the things we picked up in boarding school, we're probably judgmental with our siblings. If they kind of show any vulnerability, we probably pick on them. So it is, I imagine, quite a difficult thing for a sibling at home, because when they come back, the boarding school sibling, it's like, oh, who is this person? It must be very confusing. And I think this is the privilege, but also the special thing, that those who go away, they're special in some ways. They're somehow, better than everyone else. So that gives that complex, and I think that links into the psychology of the UK, is that 99% of people don't go to boarding schools, and it's sold as this amazing thing. And Joy, in her book here, she talks about this kind of sibling. How does she phrase it? Something to do with basically sibling groups. So what happens is that the attachment is broken from the siblings at home and the family at home, and you attach yourself to your peer group. And what she calls this is the sibling group, which is part of the privilege. It's seen as a special thing, and that's really what the parents are paying for. They're paying for this network, that you will find jobs, you'll get into business. So it's almost like the sibling, the one that's left at home is no longer the sibling, it becomes the siblings of people in the boarding school with you. Anything I wanted to read from that? One significant aspect of the of this is the bonding in the student sibling group, which for some seems to compensate for the loss of family. The sibling group in boarding schools is very important, and in some public schools lifelong friendships are formed. This is often what the parents pay for. So Anne Power, in her talk in November, she mentioned this idea that often in the height of war, that's when the greatest bonds and friendships are formed. And she linked that into boarding school. It's like, I mean, I'm very close to one of my friends who I interviewed on my podcast. And it's like, we've been through hell. And and the same with others who I've been to school with, they're really supportive. Others not, but those who are in this world. So it's like, there is that bond. What else have I got down here? Another thing is, like, for the child at home, it's like maybe you've got just an accent from whatever area. Your brother or sister goes off to boarding school, they come back with a different accent. They are a different person, and therefore there must be that doubt inside yourself to go, is there something wrong with me? Again, it's that belief. As adults, often the stories I've heard about siblings, so the child who's gone off to boarding school often really struggles as an adult. And whether it's through addictions or just not being able to find work, or struggles with money, struggles with relationships. And the siblings who stayed at home, they really succeed. They do really, really well. And I imagine that it's quite difficult for them to understand what's happening with their sibling who's been to boarding school, who's had this privilege. And because for them, they should be a success. And because that sibling has never told them what actually went on in this school, and I can just, I've seen this and I've heard this quite a bit, is this idea of, they've done really well, the siblings who've stayed at home. And it makes sense that although they broke the attachment with their brother or sister who went to school, they still had that secure attachment with mum or dad, or both. Whereas the sibling who goes away to school breaks all attachment with siblings and parents. So my invitation to you, and this is one of the reflections that this subscriber has said, is they can help with the healing, by exploring what their experiences were. And I think one of the things with ex-boarders when we're healing is really listening to them. I think when I've tried to share with my family, they've not been able to hear what's gone on, and because we've learned not to speak, it's very scary for us to suddenly go, "Oh, this is what happened." So just being able to be heard, and Joy Shavrian says that about parents. If your child went to boarding school, it's just to listen. "Oh, I hear it was really difficult for you." That's all we really need. It's not to be fixed. We don't want to be fixed. What we want is just to be seen, because we were never seen at school. Yeah. So yeah, just kind of start ending this here, and I think one of the things that's come to me is like, we are all siblings who stayed at home because our country is being run by ex-boarding school, Whitehall, government, business, legal, and and I'll give you an example. David Cameron in 2006, this is in James O'Brien's book, How They Broke Britain, and he quotes David Cameron basically saying that when he was going for the leadership for the Conservative Party, saying it's all about family. That's the most important thing. That's what Conservatives is all about. That's what we're going to do. That's his conscious mind. But then his unconscious is he's attached to the sibling group from his boarding school. And so 2010 comes in. What does he do? He implements, and he does the complete opposite. Instead of supporting families, he puts in the austerity measures and totally, destroys the social system, and that's kind of what he talks about in his book, James O'Brien. So I think we are almost like that sibling which has been left at home. We are seen as less than. We are seen as, there's something wrong with us, and therefore we pick that belief up that, we can't change. They're the ones with the power. And my sense is, and this is what is really coming to me, is that we have to remember how powerful we are. And actually we are the 99%. Obviously, we need to have that vision. What do we want? For me, it's children to be cared for, to be loved, to be safe, and we can do something about that. We just have that vision, and then we start marching towards it, moving towards it. And yeah, I think it's a powerful question about this. That this subscriber said as well, asylum children, they're going missing. There's an article in the BBC saying 50 have disappeared. It's like we don't care about children in this country, and it's time for that to change, and it's up to us, stop giving them the power and just go, right, yeah, we can do something. How do we do that? Have the vision, and we just show up day after day, and when it's hard, when they, try and stop us, it doesn't matter. We just keep going, let's make these children safe. So, yeah, that's just some reflections. Next week, I'm going to have a break. I might put something up, but I won't be around. I'm going to have a week off. And then the film's obviously having a break. It'll be back up on the 19th, and it looks like the Observer article, which is, they've interviewed a few people from the film and myself, and it's going to be a colour spread, so it's going to be in the Observer, and that's the 20th, which that will come out. So that's exciting, a little scary. Yeah, but yeah, just keep going. Let's change this system. It's time, and it's really exciting. So bless you for your support, and yeah, all those comments about the film. It's been really well received. So thank you. Really appreciate that. Okay, take care.